Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
The gaps for Campbell and Rubel are becoming pronounced enough that their rivals must feel a sense of urgency in these remaining 4 rounds. The championship won't be over if they fail to outscore them, but the chances will become awful slim. Let's see if they can make inroads as we get ready to watch round 7 of the PRL GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. First up for the GT4 AM series is Charlotte Motor Speedway. Created more with stock cars in mind, let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Until a few years ago, most race fans probably didn't know that this track had a road course layout. Thanks to a huge revamp to prepare for NASCAR to race on it, the Roval is now a top-tier facility. Situated in the northeast corner of Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a whopping 6 different road course layouts. They range from just under a mile to a little over 2 miles in length. Like most Rovals, the high-speed banking on the oval portion makes up the majority of the lap length. However, one unique feature that isn't often seen on other Rovals is that this track includes a decent amount of elevation change. Passing is often difficult, and the 2 chicanes on the oval portion are notorious for their unforgiving curbing. Lesser-powered cars find overtakes a bit easier with the slipstream on the banking, but anything with some oomph is going to have to work very hard to get by their rivals. If anything, attrition often rears its ugly head, and simply keeping the car pointed forward and clean will net you a good finish. While the debate rages on among gearheads on whether oval cars should race here, one thing is for sure: it provides some wild action and almost never disappoints the fans in the stands. DJ, this track has seen a lot of use recently, both on GSRC and even in iRacing's 4 Hours of Charlotte. But what about with these GT4 cars this afternoon?
Well, Joe, they're going to have a little bit more downforce, a little bit more speed than your traditional stock car, but that's not going to make things a lot easier. Passing is going to be at a premium around here. There's really kind of two good overtaking opportunities, and that's going down into both bus stops off of the traditional oval portions of the track. So that's turn 11 and 12 coming on the backstretch, and then the 15, 16, 17 complex. Now, if you're good and you get a good launch out of turn 17, we have seen some good overtaking down into turn 1, a little bit similar to Daytona's turn 1 for those uninitiated. But overall, I think this is really going to be a battle of keeping all 4 tires on the track. It's a tight and twisty circuit, even though it has the big oval portions of it. And as we've seen a couple of times from these GT4s, the draft isn't really as effective as we originally anticipated it being. So I think this is going to be a big race about just limiting mistakes and limiting those off tracks.
Certainly going to be tough with how quick it is in some places. But before we get to the racing, we want to talk about how our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebutkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL GT Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. If we look at the championship, as I mentioned, things are spreading apart for Robbie Campbell and Michael Michaud. Back behind them, it remains relatively closer between Bergquist, Robertson, and Charles Sumner as well. So we could see some switching around before things are done, but Robbie Campbell has really got a grip as it stands. We'll see how he performs today. In the meantime, why don't we head over to the Teams Championship?
Well, in that Teams Championship, Joe, it is still so tight up at the top between the PRL Director team and GT Moore, and a big, big gap between Piltdown's Punks, down to Piltdown's Punks, rather, about 100 points there. Parabola Racing keeping them honest, only about 20 points back, with Team Kodak Rhino about 40 points back of them.
Now, for today's event, if you haven't watched the GT4 AM series before, we are in round 7, and it's a 40-minute race. There's 3 different makes of cars that they can select from, but they can't change them mid-season except for extenuating circumstances. They do have an open setup in this series, and even though these are relatively basic cars compared to some higher-end machines, there's still quite a bit you can do to make them comfortable for yourself. They have some penalties that they dole out if you are naughty about track limits or hitting other people too much, and you can get a drive-through at 13 incidents and a disqualification at 17. For those bonuses down at the bottom, they have the pole position up for grabs right now, and Kyle Robertson currently has the provisional pole. Make that Johnny Luna, who just now crossed, and looks like that was actually the first flying time that any of the drivers has been able to take. So the 17 right now are quickest, and it switches around to a familiar face on the pole, but in a different car, Bradley Hawley.
Yeah, Holly was very quick in practice, Joe. He's one I'm watching out for. Michael Michaud jumping up to P2 there, as Bradley, known a little bit more for racing around in those stock cars. Well, this is a stock car circuit, so I think some of that knowledge may be coming into play for him here today.
That's a really good point. He might be pretty darn familiar with this place. And the cars, as you said, are a little different, but not too drastically so. They still are big and heavy like the stock cars. In fact, they're maybe even a little bit lighter, so might feel that much easier as Cervantes, also one of our stock car drivers, comes up and puts himself into second. So will we see those, a sort of reverse situation where those who have raced on the Oval Series actually have a little bit of an advantage here today?
Well, it's kind of looking that way, Joe. The only one who's a little bit out of position on that is Charles Sumner, currently down in 10th, and that's Burmeister finding what happens when you take a little bit too much out of that final turn 17. Here comes Pabolano driving through. Ooh, not enough brake there. That's a cut course. This lap's not going to count for the 101.
Unfortunately, so Bradley Hawley back around for a second lap, and it's another 2/10 knocked off to at a 23.4. There's Michaud, who is shuffled down into fourth place, and that one's a 23.7. That will not give him pole, but it will put him on the front row. Here comes Cervantes behind him, and he doesn't go quicker, so he'll stay in third for the time being. Cowgill's another one who came over from the oval side. He's in at ninth, and Kalen seems to be struggling a bit. Another of our oval drivers, he's in the 62 and 17th position. So we look at Robertson here, and he unfortunately has that lap deleted.
Yeah, he does. Baron Hilton there, unable to improve on his time. Let's see if Sumner's able to go a little bit faster here, crosses the line, is able to go faster by about 0.05 of a second, but that lap is going to get deleted. Waiting here, see if Bergquist can do. Bergquist can get a little bit faster. That'll bump him up to P5. Still waiting on our championship leader, though, Robbie Campbell, to make his first flying lap.
Bergquist third in the point, so he wants to be higher up to make sure he can score as much as possible. Johnny Luna, first two laps went quicker than each other. Is the third one going to be even better? Yes, a 24.9, but only takes him up into ninth place. Here's Bradley Hawley once again, has 0.3 of a second, and this time he has to abandon the final chicane. He's got enough time to start another lap if he wants, but he's got to get those tires warmed again.
Yeah, exactly. And tire temperature, or track temperature right now is about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's not going to take too much for him to do so. There you see Michaud unable to improve. Kalen putting a lap time down. That's going to be P5 for the driver, the 62. He'll be proud with that. Cervantes is going to start out hot here on another flying lap.
Robbie Campbell up to the front row now. His first two laps got deleted, but this one was clean, and he's within 1/10.5 of Bradley Hawley. Jordan Walker, who comes through with a 26.1, is just off of his best pace. So Baron Hilton is also not going to find time, sadly. He'll stay P14. What about Sumner?
Sumner's able to get a little bit more speed out of the car. That'll move him up one position. Kyle Robertson unable to find anything right there. Bergquist looks like he's not going to move up, so he'll stay in 7th. Bertoon comes to the line. I think that was a bit of a warm-up there for Jerome, so he'll have to wait for another one. Looks like the next drive across the line is going to be that 12th place Johnny Luna. He's been able to keep those times coming down. Let's see if he's got anything here.
It's a little off on that first apex, and yeah, he's definitely off the pace that time through. Pabolano will be next in his McLaren. Has yet to set a time. He's one of 4 that haven't. And a 25.6 will at least get one on the board.
That's going to be 16th place for Pabolano. Here's Bradley Hawley. Again, this is an out lap for Bradley, so he'll be setting up here to do a good run. Now, this is the question. Robbie Campbell, your points leader in the championship, is he able to go faster? Yes, he is, but not faster than Bradley Hawley, only by a couple of hundredths of a second.
It's going to be tight between those two. Fascinated to see how it plays out once we get to the race itself. Looks like Baron Hilton going to abandon his final couple laps as he slides it into the pit lane. Charles Sumner will be next up in his number 98. And as he crosses the line, that's not going to be an improvement. Robertson does a 23.8. In fact, that jumps him up to 6th. That's a huge leap for him. Bergquist, a 24.2, stays in 7th despite the improvement.
Looks like Jerome Bertoom there had that lap, a good lap for him. That's going to be P6. Mark Kalin going to be hoping for a little bit more. This is a warm-up, though, for him. He's currently in 9th. Here comes Burmeister. He hasn't set a time yet. This looks like another out lap for him. So waiting, Johnny Luna is not able to improve on that lap. Looks like next across is going to be the line is Pablano. He's going to be hoping for a lot more, taking a big chunk of curb there, though.
And that one didn't count for him either. Here comes Bradley Holly. He is on a flyer, but is it going to be quick? He crosses the line, and this one doesn't count, and he pulls over. So he is absolutely done now. He can't start a new flying lap, unfortunately, Cervantes. He was close earlier. As he comes back around, he's not close that time. One more shot for him to get back on that front row.
Calhoun as well is going to have one more shot at it. He's able to improve a little bit there, though, but it looks like that lap not going to move him up the order. Glenn Vanko not able to get up to 17th as we watch Peter Newhook. That's not going to be an improvement for Newhook. There goes Campbell across the line. Now, this is a warm-up lap for Robbie, so he's going to have one last shot at this.
Comes down to 0.03 of a second. Can Robbie make that up? Bertoom across the line and isn't able to go any quicker, unfortunately. So on his final flying lap. What about Mark Kalin? Got into the top 10 and the 62 crosses. And it doesn't go any quicker. Who is going to be the first to take the checkered flag here? Burmeister crosses the line, goes faster, and that will get him, well, nowhere. He stays in 21st. As we take a look at Hilton, another deleted lap for him, and now the checkered flag waves. Cervantes is just coming off the final backstretch chicane rather, and through NASCAR 3 and 4. Does he have enough to try and go faster? Looks like he's going to stick it out. He passed by the pit entry. A 23.817. His first lap was his fastest. It'll stay his fastest.
He got super loose there coming through that final chicane. Calhoun taking all kinds of curbing, and to good effect. If that sticks, that's going to move him up to 8th. Here comes Kammer. Kammer able to get a 23.7. That's good, but it's not going to move him up anywhere. Newhook unable to improve. Here comes Campbell.
Campbell crosses, and it's a 23.1. That's pole for the 93 car, and more bonus points for him on top of that, because I don't think there's anybody still out there able to challenge him. Swindells will be next, and after that, Kalin, I think, is the last car able to set a time. Richard only has one set time, make it 2 now, with a 23.8 into 5th. He really needed that one, and Kalin, who has been pushed back to 11th, will have to settle for that.
Indeed, he will. And that's going to set the order here, I believe, for the race at Charlotte. This is going to be interesting. I think track position is going to be very, very key. So the jump off the line for Robbie Campbell and Bradley Holly could be of the utmost importance.
Absolutely. And don't forget, they can't do it like NASCAR does, where they skip that last chicane. In iRacing, they have to take the course. And when we watched the Camel Series here this past weekend, that lost the pole sitter the lead because he was a bit caught out with the way that it started, the green flag in the chicane. Wonder if we'll have a similar situation if Bradley Holly is as familiar as he's showing to be, and Campbell maybe not quite as. Waiting for the session to officially wrap up, then we'll go through our starting order here today. Boy, what a story that would be if Bradley Holly comes in and shows he can win on the road and oval side, doing a reverse of what we saw with Abner Acosta. Looks like on the pole, Robbie Campbell will start it off from the top spot with Bradley Holly next to him. Kyle Kammer will be P3 as Michaud is 4th. Swindells starts P5. To his outside, it's Danny Cervantes. Jerome Bertoom starts 7th, and Kyle Robertson off to his right. Then you've got David Calhoun in 9th, and the outside of row 5 is Kevin Berquist.
Starting off in 11th is going to be Mark Kalin, flanked by Peter Newhook, with Johnny Luna and Patrick Cowgill behind them. Row 8 will be Charles Sumner and Baron Hilton, with Glenn Vanko in 17th and Michael Pablano in 18th. And rounding out your top 20, it's Spencer Semkowicz and Jordan Walker.
Burmeister was the last one to put a time down. Gagnon going to start from the back of the field in 22nd, as Beryl has not actually joined the session He is currently somewhere else, so not sure if he's going to be able to take the start with it cutting so close right now. Just waiting for the pace car to take off. And then we will go around for our one pace lap and be on our way for 40 minutes of racing here in round 7 of the Precision Racing League GT4 AM series. Now, if you are here for the GT3 Pro Series, make sure to stick around because that will be coming later on. And if you are here for the GT4 AMs, we definitely encourage you to also stay put after the race because we've got more awesome action over at our next track here in just a moment. But in the meantime, we are on our way, and if we take a glance at the track conditions, not much has changed, just mildly warmer on the track surface at 92 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, and there you can see it's dropping a little bit. Not a whole lot of wind out of the south and relatively low humidity for all of this. So that is going to set up a very, very nice track for these drivers. It's right about in that Goldilocks zone where the tires are going to be nice and happy. You see some of the drivers here not exactly used to that sort of Le Mans style start, as now everybody out and underway starting on this pace lap.
Now through the infield portion, and this is such an interesting roval that they run here at Charlotte. It's different from how it used to be once they upgraded it for NASCAR, and it's honestly made it feel almost like a street circuit through here.
Very much so, Joe. Those walls are very, very tight to the inside. You can run very, very wide on the exit of turn 4, almost out there. But yeah, it's very tricky. It's a lot almost like you're driving through the pit lane at Daytona when you're running the endurance course there. So it's a pretty unique street circuit or roval as it goes. And really and truly, there's not a lot of time for you to get up to maximum speed. You know, the chicanes on both the front stretch and the back stretch really, really hamper that ability, but it's not super wide. It's almost like you're going through bus stop after bus stop. It's very tricky, and it really can catch drivers out if they're not ready for it.
Now we'll see if anybody clips those turtle curbs throughout the race, because I don't think the car is going to be able to stay pointing the right direction if they hit it hard enough. So we now see them coming down into that backstretch chicane. Campbell just taking the point ahead of a few of the cars deciding to go single file here. Bradley Holly in his Porsche. If I know him, he is not going to give up until he has a victory. So he's going to be fighting tooth and nail with our 5-time winner that's starting next to him. Can he manage to pull one over on Robbie Campbell in the same way that Domeyer has only been able to in this season in the GT4 AM series? I believe the Porsche pace car is going to duck away here in a moment. Campbell's actually backing them up somewhat, maybe trying not to start in the pit lane, and yeah, now he goes. So he's going to go early just to start off before they get to the chicane. Green flag officially waves, and Campbell is off like a shot. Very few side-by-side through that last chicane, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, nobody really wanted to. A little bit of puff of brake smoke back there. I think somebody had to check up. Looks like everybody's through relatively okay. That was a great start for Robbie Campbell. Really, really heads up to just get the power on.
And it was Cervantes that had a problem. Just got hit from the side. I'm not sure by who, but it spun him around. He wound up taking a tow, unfortunately. Up at the front already coming into turns 5 and 6 here as Campbell just ahead of Holly and Cameron. We got another spin. That was Michaud.
Yeah, Michaud, there's been problems in the back as well with Calhoun and Bergquist, Burmeister, everybody really having some problems getting these tires up to temperature and working well on this roval. Focusing here on the 3rd place of Kyle Kammer.
And Jordan Walker, in a separate incident, hit the wall in the same corner as Michaud. May have been caught off guard by the car stopped in front of him. For a while, Kammer was all over the rear of the 184. Wasn't able to pass, but keeping him honest. They're losing touch with Robbie Campbell with one lap nearly gone. It's 0.8 of a second up to our leader.
Yeah, Robbie really looked like he is just pulling away. Oh, Richard Swindell's looking like he's gotten a slowdown penalty, cutting the course, dropping all the way back to 12th place.
Yeah, he did. He unfortunately went through the backstretch chicane, and he's actually going to have to serve a penalty, it appears, as he comes in from that one. A lot of chaos here at the start, and we're now checking in on some more action happening between Patrick Cowgill to the outside, or excuse me, the inside, and Charles Sumner to the outside through Heartburn Turn. They now swing down into the infield portion. Couple of right-handers, and Cowgill is going to have to give it up as Sumner gets through.
That's a good job there from Charles Sumner, really just holding that out. That's the way you've got to make a pass there going into the first corner. Riding on board with Cowgill, missed that apex a little bit. He clipped a little bit too much of that curb, and you could see how much that upset the car, forced it out, and you could really see with this angle, Joe, just how much Cowgill is having to force the car around the corners. Those front tires just aren't gripping up to the levels that he'd want them to at this point.
They come onto the banking. For a while, I thought they were going to be caught by the train behind, but Newhook, Hilton, Vanko, and Kalen have dropped back, gaining, and not having enough straightaway, but look at how deep Cowgill sends it into the corner. In fact, he may have sent it too deep as he now loses many car lengths on the 98 car.
That was a little bit of an over-aggressive move there, I have to say, from Cowgill. We heard some of the race organizers talking before the race about how unless you have an overlap going into the chicanes, that the organizers are going to look very, very unhappily on anybody that tries for an over-aggressive move. Oh, that's a spinner there in the back.
That's Hilton. Thankfully stays off the racing line enough that everybody was able to avoid him. He's going to get going in 15th now that he finally finds a gap. Let's see what happens here. Talk us through it, DJ.
Well, it looks like he goes down to get onto the binders, has to move out of the way. I believe that was Newhook that he was trying to avoid, and just that little bit of extra input on the car while applying the braking, a little bit of rear brake locking, and that sends him around.
Ooh, Holly lost spots. Holly had a spin just now into turn 6. The crested right-hander sent him off into the barrier.
Oh no, absolute heartbreak here for Bradley Holly in the 184. We were really hoping that this was going to be a good challenge to Robbie Campbell. Just lost it through turn 6. I think it's a little bit before this. We came in just as he had it, and I think he backed into the wall, Joe. I'm looking at that car, and there is no rear wing on it.
You're right. He lost his rear wing. That is certainly going to hurt his pace around here, I imagine, even though he wants the straight line speed. The infield, he will be suffering. So he's in 4th now. He's only lost 2 positions with that, but how slow will he be as this race continues? Campbell now up to 1.8 seconds over Cammer.
Yeah, he's starting to pull away. Let's keep our eyes. There he goes. That is Robbie Campbell. You can see that gap between the McLaren of Kyle Cammer. Jerome Batum doing a great job to catch up 4 positions into that final podium spot right now.
Let's take a look at 11th here with Vanko. He's got Simkovic back there, Bergquist, as well as Calhoun, all kind of stacking up.
Yeah, and Bergquist in that 64 is the one that I would be watching a lot of. He is very much out of position here, courtesy of an early spin. But it looks like right now that Simkovic had some good speed to try to challenge Vanko, falling back a little bit here, though, and now gaining again.
See who gets the launch coming onto the oval. A lot more difficult than you would think. You can see them just sliding all the way up to that outside wall, needing every inch of the track. So far, looking pretty good for Calhoun there in the back, and that number 89 BMW. But as he gains, whoa, sticking his nose in. That was Simkovic that we had on screen, almost getting past Vanko. Had to bail out of it, it looked like.
He did, Joe, but look, he's able to keep very close behind Porsche versus Porsche here. Simkovic is going to take advantage of that draft. He's going to go down onto the apron. Now, that is legal. Organizers have said that is okay. He's going to have the run, and that's fully ahead. Oh, that is, oh my goodness, that's Calhoun, I believe.
That's Bergquist. That was Bergquist who got hit by Calhoun. I think it looks like Bergquist was slowing up early because of Vanko being offline in front of him. And then Calhoun sent it in way hot and had to stop himself with the help of a McLaren, with the McLaren brakes. Unfortunately, the McLaren did brake in the wrong way.
Yeah, it did, right off into the wall. That's a little bit of a heartbreak there for him. Focusing back now on this battle between Mark Kalin and Patrick Cowgill. Kalin trailing behind there in that yellow and black BMW on the McLaren, getting a lower line there through the banked cornering.
Cowgill tucking it down to the blue and white line. Just ahead of him, that is Charles Sumner, who we saw pass Cowgill a little bit earlier. Both of them nice and solid into the backstretch chicane, but out of it, not so much for Patrick Cowgill. Here goes Kalin up to the high side.
Well, and remember, we were watching Cowgill earlier and seeing just how much he was struggling to get those those front tires to grip. That is Kalin trying to make it work. He's going to have the preferred line going into the braking zone. Is it going to happen? Kalin gets it wound up. That's a great pass for the 62.
As that was happening, don't need to go to the replay, but Spencer Simkovich had a spin through the backstretch chicane. Didn't hit anyone, gets it going in 15th. So we watch these two now into the infield portion. Mark Kalin in the 62 BMW, trying to see if he can run down the 2 seconds needed to catch his fellow oval racer, Charles Sumner.
Seeing if he can do it, and we're going to jump back here, though, to Glenn Vanko, who's under all kinds of pressure from David Calhoun. Remember, this was a 4-car train that was separated courtesy of that incident that we saw with Bergquist.
And it was Calhoun that made the contact. But despite that, I'm not seeing a lot of damage on the front there. It might be a little on there, perhaps on the driver's left.
Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit on the left front, Joe, but I think he got away from that relatively scot-free.
Doesn't seem to be hurting his top end all that much. He's hanging on to the back of that Porsche. Approaching the backstretch chicane. This is where we've seen so many drivers make mistakes, and Vanko does this time. Going a little too hard into the first apex, but gathers it up on corner exit. Behind them, Michaud, who is out of position. Remember, he started this race in 4th, is climbing back through.
Yeah, and he's been fighting really hard to get all the way up there. That car, that McLaren, looking like it has a lot of speed under it. Everybody tightening up, under braking into that final chicane. Now the quick little blast down to turn 1. Michaud continuing to close up, bringing that gap down to about 0.4 of a second as they dive through the heartburn turn.
Oh, and he's going to get to the inside. Did he just give it up there? Almost looked like Calhoun decided he didn't want to try and fight it and let that McLaren pass. So now Michaud up to 12th, sizes up Glenn Vanko. As this has been happening, let's not go there now because it's not a battle yet. Kammer closed in on Campbell by a 10th or 2, so I think he's got the pace to maybe keep Robbie honest.
Yeah, I think he does too. We'll kind of keep an eye on that and bring your attention to it when it gets interesting. But I think right now the best battle we're going to see is this chase down by Michael Michaud on Glenn Vanko. That McLaren has a lot of speed in it, as I said, and he is just absolutely scything his way through the field.
Getting close to the back of the Porsche. Not close enough to attack down into the chicane this time, at least. As they come out the other side onto the banking one more time. I almost wonder if some of the oval drivers actually are using that banking to find some of their speed. We've got to go to the battle for the lead because Kammer was half a second faster last time across. Did Campbell maybe brush a wall or something that we missed?
I think he may have, Joe. There's really no other explanation for just how quickly Kyer Kammer was able to approach him. Now, he's going to be within about 0.7 of a second here as they get onto the banking. That's going to be important because that means he is going to be able to take a little bit of advantage of the draft. Now, let's keep our eyes focused here, see if maybe this is the area where Robbie's able to try to escape a little bit, push a little bit hard, cut the course there. That's perfectly allowed. And yeah, he's got that gap up to about 0.8 now.
As we switched over, Michaud was able to pass Vanko, and Calhoun was as well. So Glenn went down 2 spots to 13th. A little bit farther away this time through for Kyle Kammer. Campbell about a second off his regular pace the last 2 laps. This time, though, Well, no, that's still a little off for him, 23.9. But Cameron was not able to keep his speed up. He was at a 24.1. But I can tell you, looking at the lap times, that Campbell isn't quite as quick as he was earlier.
No, and I just went back and watched the replay there, Joe. There's not an obvious fault from Robbie Campbell. It was just Kyle Cameron running him down. So clearly that number 8 in the second place position has got a lot of speed, specifically through this infield section. He really looks like he has got the car just absolutely dialed in, and it's a little bit on the straights that Robbie starts to pull ahead.
Yeah, such as here. Around the oval once more. Now, the point I was trying to get to a little bit earlier before we had to jump to this, I wonder, because I've heard in instances of the past where when Jacques Villeneuve went to Indianapolis for the U.S. Grand Prix and they have that reverse turn 1 through there, through the banking, they actually noted that he was gaining a few tenths on drivers through there because he was using the banking better. I wonder if we're seeing something kind of like that here, where the NASCAR drivers are kind of using the banking to a little bit more of a better effect than some of the road drivers.
I certainly wouldn't be surprised, Joe. I mean, this is relatively high banking here for this. We're going to jump back here. Speaking of one of those NASCAR drivers, Bradley Holly currently trying to hold off Kyle Robertson.
Without that rear wing, and in front of them, it looks like they could have a tantalizingly close pass soon. They've run him down. We may have seen just a glance of Danny Cervantes kind of stuck in the pit lane for a moment. He spun on the pit exit and Austin Powers himself, unfortunately. So we look out the back of that Porsche, just being annoyed by the blue and white cars behind him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we got a pass for the lead.
Campbell's lost the lead. Yes, indeed. This was on the oval. I think it was just a better exit onto there from Kyle Cameron.
It was indeed just better power down out of turn 8. There you can see it. Robbie running a little bit too wide. Cameron just able to get that thing wound up. I think Robbie was worried about going wide into the wall on the exit of turn 8. Cameron gets it down to the inside and just gets on by.
Cameron showed up for the first time last round. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. He showed up for the first round and then hadn't been seen until round 6. So as we look at the battle behind them now between Holly, Robertson, and Luna, well, it looks like Holly's going to get some chance to relax a little bit because it's suddenly a battle for 5th place instead. Luna all over the rear wing of Kyle Robertson, but Robertson chops him off through 2.
Good defense there from Kyle Robertson. It looked like he got a little bit squirrely coming through the final chicane. Luna tried to pounce, but Robertson having absolutely none of it. There's that wide run that I talked about on the exit of turn 4. Luna pokes his nose to the inside a little bit there, carries some good speed through the corner. Ooh, almost into the back of the 15, but Luna able to not have any contact. Let's see how their runs are out of turn 8.
Way up against the wall there for Johnny Luna. Kept it out of it, but that will help out Kyle Robertson and Bradley Holly, of course, as they come back to the chicane one more time. Holly about 15 seconds back from the overall leader currently.
Yeah, it is a big, big gap, and about a 5-second gap to 3rd place Jerome Batum right there as well in 3rd. So they've got a lot of work to do. And as we've said, that car from Holly is damaged. No rear wing on it, but we got to keep our eyes on Luna. I think he's got to run here, Joe.
Down into the final chicane. Not quite there, but the exit could certainly set something up. We've seen a few passes here into the first corner. Luna thinks maybe Heartburn turn will hold something for him. No, not this time. He'll stay put.
Will indeed, but I think he's doing a good job here of just trying to get into the head of Kyle Robertson. All of those aggressive moves that you're seeing from him, just poking his nose this way and that, Robertson will be seeing that filling his rear view mirror with that BMW, and that's going to force him off a line here or two there eventually.
Cameron came home with a 5th last time, although he copped a point penalty from last race on top of it. This time he started from 3rd place. Last time he started from 2nd place. Going to complete the trifecta as maybe he'll take a win. We continue to ride on board with Luna, looking up at the blue Porsche of Kyle Robertson, with the sun bouncing off the bright white walls of Charlotte Motor Speedway and the suspension bouncing off the curbs. Johnny Luna closes in to within a car length.
Yeah, it looks like Luna's really able to get the power down in that BMW quite well, and that's where it seems that he is just able to absolutely fly, but not able to close in as much as he'd like to under top speed. Whew, you can see that car just wanting to step out from underneath him as he gets onto the binders, though. He is riding that thing on the ragged edge, Joe.
Well, makes sense why Luna's gotten up 7 spots from the start then. Began from 13th. He's looking to make it 8 spots if he can. Through 3 and 4, double apex right-hander, 1 long sweeping bank turn, and then they accelerate towards 5. Blind corner this one, up into 6. Braking hard for the blind crest, and then out towards the oval. This is where a number of drivers have made mistakes, opened the door for their rivals. Anybody going to do that this time? Nope.
No, everybody's able to keep it relatively nice and clean there, and you can see Robertson doing a little bit of what you talked about earlier, Joe, using that banking to his advantage, going downhill, as the oval drivers say to do it, letting the natural gravity of coming down that banking speed the car up a little bit. Luna looks very, very close here, though. He had a better run through turns 10 and 12.
Johnny was right up, almost pushing him through the corner there for a second. Does he fancy a chance down into the final chicane? Doesn't look like it. He's going to stay in line. Maybe once again, he likes heartburn turn a little bit better. Yeah, that was another great exit. Is he going to poke his nose? He is. He's going to look to the inside, but covered off. Robertson chops down and says, not yet.
Well, and look at this. They're able to really close in on Bradley Holly, all while Kyle Robertson is being super defensive here. So this is a really impressive run from him. There's a lot of speed, I think, in that blue Porsche, and I'd be a little bit scared if he gets free of Bradley Holly.
I kind of think maybe with half the race left now, Johnny Luna's got to think about coming into pit, maybe try and jump them that way. It's not a huge field. He should be able to get some clear track if he comes in, and could get into the top 5 through strategy instead. Still don't think we've had anybody take a scheduled stop in this race, which they do have to do for fuel at some point. But now they have caught up to Bradley Holly, breaking into the last chicane, and Holly has an error. This allows Kyle Robertson to get ever closer and is already looking to the outside.
He's going to carry that momentum along the outside, tuck up into the draft there a little bit, and then poke his nose back out again, just trying to find a little bit of area. Is he going to have enough for the crossover going down to the final turn? No, but Luna wants a little bit of it, and Luna backs out.
Wow, compromised himself. So Robertson is the one that has to watch out. Johnny, once again, trying to make him look in his mirrors into heartburn turn, but it doesn't stick. Simkovic pits, handing them a position, but should be able to get it back because he was well ahead of them. This must be our first scheduled stop.
Indeed, I think Richard Swindell's may have been as well, although that does look a little quick from Swindell, so that may have been a drive-through for him. But
no, pardon me. It was a wreck. Simkovic spun it off of turn 2, found the wall, and had to take a tow. So apologies. He is not making a scheduled stop.
Whoa, what happened to Luna?
Looks like turn 8 may have bit him, unfortunately.
This is just bizarre, Joe. It looks like he completely straightens out his steering on the exit of turn 8.
Well, he's going to get the wall. Watch this. I've done this embarrassingly large amount of times. There it is, just slapped it. That is pure concrete there. So nothing really to save the car. He could have easily bent the suspension with that, and he's looking very slow right now.
Yeah, he is. Even on the high-speed portions of the track, he is very, very slow. Going to come into the pits here, it looks like. See if maybe he can bang something out. But we're going to keep our eyes focused on that battle with Holly and Robertson as that has continued to stay spicy.
Kyle no longer has anybody to worry about behind him. Now he can focus forward and work on the attack. This is bad news for Bradley Holly. He's going to chuck it into turn 5, then get on the binders here through turn 6, and that sun is very low. We haven't talked about that yet. Could be causing some vision issues heading through a few of these corners.
Yeah, it really can, Joe. At about 7:40 virtual standard time, the sun is starting to set, and when you get blinded by it, iRacing does a great job of accurately putting that sun right in your eyes. Very, very hard to see.
A lot of glare, yeah. It is difficult to see through. Nothing doing down into the last chicane, the backstretch chicane rather, here for these drivers. And up onto the banking once again, and Luna has DNF'd, sadly. The 17 is done for today. Would have thought he'd try to have maybe repair the car and get back out there. As they come through the chicane onto the front stretch, Holly pulls away a little bit.
Yeah, maybe that lack of downforce on the rear wing helping him a little bit through the fast sections. It's a real heartbreak for Johnny Luna, putting in a very good race today. I have to imagine with as hard of a whap as that was, Joe, he may have some suspension damage, and if that is the case, that is not fixable in the sim.
As they come up to turn 5 now. Once again, not as close as he was last lap, so Holly seems to get a handle on things, and then suddenly he's run down. Then he starts to pull away again. Then he gets run down. Not sure what exactly is going on in that Porsche. Regardless, one thing we can say is he's not really in contention for the win anymore.
Is really not, but we focus back here on Kyle Kammer, who his gap between Robbie Campbell has been ebbing and flowing, much like how we saw it do during his chase down of Campbell. It's now currently holding at about 1.2 seconds. When I glanced up earlier, Joe, it was down to about 0.8 of a second.
Through Heartburn turn once again. So Campbell's not letting him get away, but he's certainly not close enough to attack yet. They've put one over on the field for sure, because Jerome Bertome is the next one down and the last step on the podium, but he's a whole 14 seconds behind Robbie Campbell. So unless we have something dramatic happen to these top two, it's basically a race between the 8 and the 93.
Yeah, indeed, and it may lead to a little bit of pit strategy coming into play, as we've talked about.
And I think that's Cowgill coming in. Yep, that is Cowgill in, followed by Michaud and Calhoun. Michael only able to get up to 10th before his pit stop. Probably a bit disappointing. I'm sure he would have liked to be higher up the order by this stage of the race.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. That early kerfluffle he got himself into there, obviously putting him back down the order, but he has been making a good charge. Right on board with Robbie Campbell here, just about a second behind your leader of Kyle Kammer.
This is your first time watching this season. Oh, and both of them are in and braking very deep, but I think they get down to their pit limiters in time. This must be the end of the pit window. Is Bertome going to follow? That'll really help answer that question. No, not the end of the pit window. So these two just electing to pit on the same lap as each other.
Interesting. I wonder if there was a little bit of fuel games going on between them. Maybe that's what Robbie was doing, saving a little bit of fuel, holding back there.
It's a fair point. It's always something on these high-banked rovals that you can do a little easier. Just kind of ride behind that faster car. Holly keeps going. Robertson does as well. Charles Sumner's pitting, though. And it looks like Newhook is also pitting. Yeah,
it does indeed. Looks like Mark Kalin may be in as well. But Kammer and Campbell have now been both released from the pits. Looks like the gap between them is about 1.2 seconds, so almost no time lost there in pit lane.
That makes them now the highest pitters, of course. Before, it was Patrick Cowgill. He sits in 8th, but might get a couple more back, because I believe Charles Sumner, just exiting the pits now, is going to be overtaken by Cowgill, which would mean Newhook would as well. Maybe not. No, they're starting to pull away here, and Cowgill's not there. So yes, it looks like Sumner and Newhook are able to get out in front of them. That'll put them in 6th and 7th respectively. Bertome is pitting this time. So is Holly. But Robertson has a very light right foot. That 15 car is going to go around one more lap and is the only car to make it to lap 20 on fuel.
Well, Joe, remember how much time he spent tucked up behind Bradley Holly. So he may have been able to do a lot of lifting and coasting there around the oval portions of this track and really save some fuel in that. That may be the reason why he's able to go this far.
Interesting stuff here going on. It looked like it was a decided race, and it might still be. Campbell back a little farther, about 1.5 seconds now from Kammer. Can Robertson get himself enough fuel to try and get a little closer to them? I'm looking at the gaps. No, yeah, Kammer's only 8 seconds behind, so he will not be up with them after this stop. His race was with Holly prior to that.
Indeed, it was. And remember, that was a 3-car battle with Johnny Luna, but Luna having that problem. Ooh, looks like Kalen is having some very serious problems in the pits. That car very, very damaged, so he's going to be falling down the order.
Yeah, he had an incident at the same place that Luna did, just slapping that outside wall before the oval, and unfortunately had to park it. Ooh, Michaud is feeling feisty here. Here we go. Down into turn 5, but not brave enough to fully take it on.
Yeah, trying to overtake Patrick Cowgill here as Kyle Robertson finally does come into the pits. That's a very defensive line from Cowgill. Compromises him a lot of brake in there coming out of turn 8, but that forces Michaud in turn to check up. And Cowgill, recognizing, being a gentleman there, recognizing that Michaud's got a lot more speed, pulling up to the high line and letting him by.
Unfortunately, it's going to give away 2 spots, though, because that's Calhoun. That's for position as well. The BMW will get into 9th place, and Patrick Cowgill just in the top 10 at this stage. They go by Berquist, who stays out of the way. Another lap down car, just trying not to get involved with the battles around him. Looking at the 98 of Sumner. Still being chased by Newhook. We watch them exit the pits practically together. So now that Michaud is by Calhoun and Cowgill, 2.7 seconds up to Newhook. Can he maybe try and run them down and give a challenge for that those 2 spots?
Well, he's got almost a full second better than Newhook's fastest lap, so I certainly think it's possible, Joe, especially with the cars getting a little lighter on fuel. Not out of the realm of possibility that he can, but right now Newhook's main goal is trying to keep a hold of Charles Sumner's number 98 ahead of him. Not doing the greatest job, lost a lot of time there through that infield section.
Yeah, you can see how much bigger the gap is on your screen now. We're also down to only 12 cars left on the lead lap. It's not a super short lap around here, just under 1.5 minutes for most of the cars. And yet Kyle Kammer and Robbie Campbell have been running so lightning fast that they've put some distance on many cars. And in fact, we're going to have even fewer on the lead lap because Hilton is about to get lapped right now as we see Kammer go underneath that white number 47.
Yeah, there you can see him go by, and what you see there is a spec back in your screen. That is Robbie Campbell. Kammer has been able to build that gap up to about 2 seconds. So really putting the hammer down here late in the race.
It looks like pit stops once again have made quite the difference. I kind of suspect maybe he broke the draft and Campbell was kind of clinging to that before the pit stops. Now that he doesn't have it, he's suffering, losing a few tenths here and there, certainly using every inch of the track he can, as he almost looked like he put 2 wheels in the grass on the way into the final chicane. Traffic might help him out, though. Cervantes and Hilton. Or maybe it'll hurt him. Oh, he's going to pull out of the way. Great job there by Cervantes.
It'll still compromise him a little bit there on the entry to turn 4. He would have liked to have caught these guys a little bit later in the lap, Joe. Coming around NASCAR 1 and 2 would have been ideal. Catching him through the infield. Oh, there you can see that sun glare and just how badly it can hit you when you're cresting over that blind apex. Yeah, that's going to check up Campbell a little bit. He gets a good run out of 8, though. We'll be able to get a little bit of the draft. Gap's already up to 2.6 seconds.
Both get underneath Baron Hilton, and he's on his way, but it's a much larger distance now, and it's looking less and less like Campbell can make it 6 for 7 here this afternoon. Ooh, that was way wide behind him. Both Hilton and Cervantes nearly clipping that exit wall.
Yeah, very lucky they did not do that. That's a very easy place to pick up damage, much like on the exit of turn 7. Yeah, Campbell, 2.8 seconds and only about 7 minutes to go here. He has got to be absolutely flawless in these final laps. But looking at that last lap time, Joe, he's about 0.6 of a second off of your leader, Kyle Kammer.
We got to go to 3rd place. Bertome had inherited that spot, but he might have to fight for it if he wants to finish on the podium, because Kyle Robertson coming back through is now getting up to the rear bumper of that 217. He's within about 0.3 of a second. There's a good shot that he could make this overtake if he just finds the right spot.
Exactly. May take a little bit of that draft, and running a little bit wide there is going to help Robertson. That's coming through turn 3. Now they make their way down this short little stretch to turn 5. Robertson is close enough here to take full advantage of the high banking. Let's see if he can keep it close through 7 and 8.
Yeah, this is where he needs that phenomenal exit car kind of squirming underneath him. And the McLaren in front looks pretty solid, but so does the Porsche. And he's 0.3 of a second back, so we will start to feel the effects a little bit. Don't think it's going to be a lot. And yeah, they've already hit the backstretch. He's not close enough to him. Robertson going to have to try again here.
Yeah, and it's all going to be about exit. Ooh, Robertson takes a lot of that entry curbing. You see a little bit of a wiggle there out of the Porsche. I think that was just trying to straighten up the car, make sure he didn't knock into the wall.
This is one of our best battles on the track right now. With 5 minutes left to go, Jerome's not had the season he's been hoping for. He's got to be hungry for this podium, but he's been kicking himself over a few mistakes a few of the times. Is that going to come back to haunt him? Has he finally excised those demons, or is he going to be vulnerable to little bobbles that Robertson could maybe pick up on?
Very much so. This is where the pressure is going to be on. Looks like he's holding relatively well, able to pull out a little bit more of a gap there and get it upwards near of about 0.6 of a second. So that's certainly more than we saw through this section of the track last time around.
Bertome's best finish so far has been a 5th place. Never been on the podium this season in the GT4 AM Series. Don't forget, coming up next, we have the GT3 Pro Series. So stick around for even more GT action. But right now, we want to see how this race unfolds. Oh, and there is some serious lap traffic. That's Spencer Simkovich. He's trying to slow up to get out of the way, but I think he's going to cause the reverse. He does check him up a little.
He does indeed. Is this the opportunity that Robertson was looking for? He's still a little far back at this point. I don't know if he's going to be able to get the overlap by the time they have to break down into turn 16.
It's just not there. He wants it, but it is not there, sadly. Time is starting to run out. 1.5 minutes each with 4 minutes left. We got 3 laps to go here for our drivers. Cammer with a huge gap over them, 20 seconds back to Bertome. It's already up to 3.5 over Robbie Campbell as well.
Yeah, so really holding down the front of that field quite well. Robertson a little bit closer here, though, it has to be said. He got that gap down a little bit more, both heavy on the brakes for the blind apex of turn 6. Again, it's going to come down to the exits through turn 7 and through turn 8. That car looking a little bit springy there. It does the Porsche. Let's see as the McLaren starts to stretch its legs if Robertson's got anything for him.
It's looking a lot like what we saw last lap. Just too far back for the 15 on the 217. As they break into the corner, he's going to have to start thinking outside the box, maybe a little like that. His exit looked a little bit better. It closed him in a car length or 2. We hop on board with the blue Porsche. What did he learn from that? Is there any sort of trick that he's starting to pick up?
Well, he's trying to just hug that blue and white line there, Joe. Let's watch the exit here. That's a wider berth into the corner. Costs him some time, though. Taking more curbing there, if you get it just right, will really help you. So now Bertome is able to pull away a little bit more here. Keep things spread out. That gap has grown.
Credit to the 217. You know, I doubted him after what I had seen earlier in this season, but so far, he's been holding on quite well. He's been keeping himself away from attacks, which is honestly the bigger thing, because Kyle could get close like this and maybe try and make an attempt at a pass, but we haven't seen a serious one yet. Again, he's got to get even closer than that to try and stick one in. Was that contact?
Yeah, he brushed the wall coming out of turn 7. This may be the opportunity that Robertson needs. I don't think it hurt Bertome too much, but Robertson definitely closer here, only about 0.4 of a second. He's closing in a little bit. Not going to have it coming into the final corner, but it's close.
And that is going to urge him on all the more. You can see him wagging the tail on that Porsche as he exits the backstretch chicane, hoping that he can get up there. And I think Michaud had some sort of mistake. We'll go to that a little later, but he suddenly lost more positions. It was either him or Calgill. I'll check on that in a bit. Now under serious threat. But is this the last lap? I don't think this is the last lap. Yeah, Cammer got 2 to go that time by.
And I can report on Michaud, it was just a spin going down the little backstretch into turn 5. He caught a little bit of the outside grass and hit pretty hard into the inside retaining wall. But we got to keep talking about Robertson because he is on fire, really trying to make the move.
He saw what happened. He knows that he's going to be limping. Bertome's got to make that car as wide as possible down into turn 6, and it seems like that corner is mighty for the 15, but he loses a little on the exit. Can he make it back up here on the oval portion? He's very close. This is looking good, but he nearly slaps the outside wall. He somehow keeps the speed up, and this is still on.
It still is, and that's Michael Pavolano up ahead of them about 1.2 seconds up the road. That is going to be the saving grace for Bertome if he's able to take a little bit of draft off of that McLaren. Diving down. Ooh, that's a bad run for Robertson. He broke too late.
Oh, and he knows that he falls back. White flag just waved for Kyle Cammer with about 5 seconds to spare. Hopefully they put enough fuel in for that much in this race as he adds an extra one for them. There you see the number 8 heading down and into the infield portion. We switch back to Robertson.
Bertome's in the pits, Joe.
Did he short fuel? Jerome must not have put in enough in.
He's drifting towards the pit stall. I don't know if he's short fueled or if he's serving a penalty, but no, he's coming into pits. He short fueled it.
Oh no. He was so close to podium. In fact, I don't think he's going to be able, no, he will be able to tie his best finish of the season and get a 5th. Kicking the dirt after this one, no doubt, as Jerome Bertome will not get his podium yet, but Kyle Cammer arrived in the first round and DNF'd. Came back, put it on the front row, but couldn't get himself onto the podium. Found himself suffering the ire of the stewards, getting a penalty. He comes right back, barges his way up into the lead and shows Robbie Campbell what pace really means today. Outran him in the final stint in a big way, and that will net him the win at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
An absolutely commanding drive here from Cameron. Massive kudos to him. Robbie Campbell will retain his championship lead after this. And Kyle Robertson looking like he will round out your podium after being gifted that third place position courtesy of Jerome Batum's short fueling.
Didn't have it all his own way, though, we should point out. He's trying to creep around. I think that's out of fuel. Yeah, that is Cervantes out of fuel as he tries to get to the line, and that was Papalano, who is not on the same lap and coasting to a halt. Cervantes does at least take the finish. Let's go through our starting order, or finishing order rather, here this evening as Kyle Kammer takes the win ahead of Robbie Campbell, showing that you can do it on sheer raw pace over the 93. Kyle Robertson celebrating, I'm sure, after this one with a podium, as Bradley Holly almost looked like maybe he could challenge for a win early, but settles back into fourth after mistakes of his own. Jerome Bertome was fifth as Charles Sumner was P6. Then it was Calhoun seventh, Peter Newhook in eighth, and Michaud in ninth. Last car on the lead lap, was Bertome. It just shuffled around on me. So Calgill's ninth, and Bertome is 10th. Let's go to the next 10.
Well, Glenn Vanko was there in 11th, followed by Baron Hilton and Michael Pabalano, with Richard Swindells being the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Spencer Semkowicz 3 laps down, Berquist 4 laps down, Cervantes 9 laps down, Kalen 11 laps down, Luna and Walker DNFs from there on out.
Almost looks like Jerome tried to serve a penalty on the last lap because he came into the pit lane. So he must have gotten it at the very end after his pit stop, which is a real shame. In the meantime, we have our second place finisher, Rob Campbell, with us. Rob, you didn't win this one, unfortunately, but you've got some serious competition in Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle had some pace tonight. I don't think there was any way I was going to be able to keep up with him there, but he had the pace. I was just trying to hold on and to maintain second and get as many points as I could.
I noticed that you were keeping a pretty decent gap to him after he passed you before the pit stop. And then after the pit stop, you just started bleeding time. Was it the slipstream that was allowing you to stay close before that pit stop?
It could be. I came out, I think about a second back of him, but I think either a lap or two after the pit stops there, I kind of tagged the back end on the wall. I think it's turn 6 after the dip, and then the left-hander heading on to the back oval. And from that point on, the car was kind of dancing on the back end the rest of the race. So I don't know if I bent something there or if it threw the arrow off, but yeah, I couldn't keep up with him after that. He pulled away, but I don't think I was going to be able to hold on to his back end much longer anyways.
Well, it was unfortunate that you couldn't manage the win, but you still got another podium helping your championship run. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Richard Swindells, we've been working together all week. Kyle, we chatted a couple times in sessions during the week, so I knew he was going to be fast, and he pulled through this one. So
that was Robbie Campbell finishing in second today, and our third place finisher was Kyle Robertson. It looks like DJ's caught up with him.
I have indeed. Kyle, a little bit of a surprising third place there for you, but you were fighting that entire way.
Yeah, I spoke with Jerome just now, and he said that he got a penalty right at the end, and man, I felt so bad because we were dicing it up there. It was a lot of fun. I was trying to pass him cleanly, but as you guys can see, that was tough. This road course didn't give you much places to pass, but man, what a race, especially after that first turn nonsense. I thought I was done, but I'm just happy for a podium right now.
Talk me through that mentality about coming back from an incident like that to be able to side your way through the field. Does that change how you're driving a little bit? Or are you one of the guys that can just sort of shut everything out and go, nope, just going to run the race I want to run?
I mean, honestly, the first thing I do after I get hit, I just try and make sure the steering wheel is straight. The spotter doesn't say I have any damage. And as soon as I hear that, it just back to normal driving, just push the car where I can push it. And if I, feel like there's something wrong later, that's not really like the meatball flag, then I'll try and drive around it. But I felt that car was great, so I just drove it, drove the wheels off it like I could.
Well, I'd say it worked out pretty well for you, man. A great third place. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, my teammate Andre Jameson, my other teammate Antonio Bannister, Colin Sheppy, my sponsors, Drive Trainer, J-Moto, Chocolate Dandies, 10 Flat Detail, and I'd like to thank you guys for having such a great series, great content, great commentating. This is the best league I've ever been in, and man, I'm looking forward to doing this again with you guys. And I gotta say, I really miss being up here with you guys on the podium. I think it's been since Hockenheim. So good talking to you guys. I really appreciate it.
It has been a minute. That was your third place finisher, Kyle Robertson. Joe?
It's nice to know when you're loved. As we now take a quick break, but don't go away because we have the GT3 Pro Series coming your way from the Red Bull Ring. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to Austria. We're at the Red Bull Ring, here to watch round 7 of the Precision Racing League GT3 Pro Series. This is one of the newest tracks here on the iRacing service, so why don't we head on over to our track guide to show you what it's all about. Welcome to the Red Bull Ring. Located near Spielberg, Austria, this track began life in a much more fast and sweeping format. Having gone through multiple different owners, it eventually was snatched up by Red Bull and has its 3 different layouts you see today. While they range roughly between 1 to 2.5 miles in length, the thing they hold in common are fast straights, hard braking zones, and very few corners. In fact, the longest and most common layout, the Grand Prix course, has only 9 of them. Spots like Remus and Gosser are the most popular corners for overtakes, but both involve dramatic elevation changes. Each have their perils. Remus tends to see drivers make contact when the blind cutback often goes wrong, whereas Gosser tempts you into braking far too late, and the downhill nature shoots cars miserably into the gravel. A few swift bends still scatter the track, with turns like Lauda, Rent, or A1 really testing a driver's accuracy at high speeds. However, most of them don't send you off into the grass. Rather, there is a lot of paved runoff. But they often include some nasty curves most cars will want to avoid hitting, as they've been known to damage suspension and undertrays. A variety of types of racing compete here, with everything from lower Formula open-wheelers to motorcycles, touring cars, and all the way up to Formula One holding events regularly. Set among the gorgeously picturesque Alps, and including great racing on a challenging and history-rich circuit, it's easy to see why fans and drivers are both eager every time they come for a race. DJ, it's got elevation change, it's got places to pass, it's got a rich history in racing. There's not much more you could ask for in a track.
There really isn't, Joe. The Red Bull Ring is one of the best circuits in the world, in my opinion. And there are some great opportunities for these GT3s to get a little passing done. The draft is going to be absolutely paramount around here. Going into turn 3 at Remus or down into turn 4, look for that there. But watch out for the fight back. We've seen a couple of times going down into Rauch and into that infield section, cars continuing to go side by side. In terms of driver difficulty, getting everything wound up just right for turn 1, uphill braking zone, well, that can be a real trick. And we've talked about time and time again, that final corner, A1, it can be so tricky to get right and not pick up an off track.
As for today's race, though, or at the championship, rather, if we take a look at the points, Rubilar has 4 wins out of the 6 rounds. Modov is the one trailing him and has been quick, but he's got to be quicker. From there, Stevens, DeTulio, and Cal Quinn are among yours, hunting for that second place if they can't catch Rubilar. What about the team's championship?
Well, in that team's championship, Joe, it's a little bit more spread out, with Punta CL Racing Black having a big 53-point advantage over Delta Sport Falcon. Delta Sport Raptor not too far back, though, only about 13 points back of them, but almost doubling their score is back to them is Delta Sport Eagle. They've got a long ways to make up with only a couple of rounds left. Pure Sims Esports, though, looking in to make a battle for P4.
For today's race, same deal as before, 40 minutes, but there's a lot more cars you can choose from, all within the GT3 category of race car. They have an incident limit at 13 and its qualification at 17. And a bonus point has been decided here because we just finished the qualifying, and it is Alessandro DeTulio who has taken that one over Nicholas Rubilar. So that is going to be interesting, as Alessandro has been charging his way forward in recent rounds. So can he carry that on here in the race itself? We'll go through that starting order in just a moment as we get ready to watch round 7 of the Precision Racing League GT3 Pro Series. Love seeing any car basically come here to Austria and race. It's been a joy having it added to the iRacing service. The clock ticks over, and we are now into our race session. It is DeTulio who starts on the pole with Nicholas Rubilar in second place. Carl Modov will be P3 as Ferguson starts from 4th. Cal Quinn, P5 for him, as Jesse Stevens will be in 6th. And it's Minito in P7, Watson 8th, Goodway in 9th, and J.R. Williams rounding out your top 10.
In 11th, it's going to be Diego Morales, flanked by Felipe Riquelme, with Gonzalo Cortez and Pedro Berger lining up behind them. Connor Bell will be the inside of row 8, followed by Jean-Francois Godin, with Teddy Lowendick in 17th and Julio Palacio in 18th. Christian Raditz will line up in 19th, followed by Arnaud Genet in 20th.
21st will be James David, Tony Costello 22nd, and Christopher Rines 23rd. Last 2 to put times in are Vicente Morales and Philippe Magnon. David Holland didn't get to set a time, but it looks like he will be gridding up at the back of the field as he is in the session. So we're going to have 26 cars taking part in today's pro race for the GT3 cars. Different machines from what we just witnessed. A lot more downforce and a lot more gadgets, DJ.
Indeed, Joe, and what that means specifically in terms of the lot more downforce is a lot more of the draft. And so that means that these big, long straightaways here at the Red Bull Ring are going to be absolutely crucial, and the run out of the corners, well, we're going to have to watch out for them because those are going to be just as equally as important.
And as Teddy Lowendick grids up, we've got his onboard for today, and glad to see some appreciation once again as we all get a spot on his shirt. And big thanks to Ted for all the laughs that we've had over the years. Hopefully he has a good race today, starting solidly in the mid-pack. See if that gives him a chance to maybe try and make some overtakes at this circuit. It usually throws up quite a few unusual happenings, at least in Formula One. Will it do so in GT3s as well?
I have to think it will, Joe. Despite the fact that there are very few corners on this circuit, it can catch you out very, very quickly if you are not totally on top of your car the entire time.
And it's not a very long pace lap around here as they do line up on the infield. So just a couple right-handers through Rint and A1. You're going to see the pace car accelerate away, and DeTulio is going to attempt to get his second win of the season to further chase down Nick Rubelar, who starts next to him. Out of the final corner, he holds them up, and green flag is out. Almost looked like some contact behind him between third and fifth. I'll double check on that in a bit, but as they come down into Lauda corner, it's very clear for DeTulio, and sending it up in the inside. Oh, a little touch as Rubelar gets a bump from behind. He tries to come back on track 3 wide as it's Ferguson to his inside and Cal Quinn on the very far right. A fourth car getting involved in it. That looks to be Jesse Stevens. They're now 2 by 2 heading up into Remus, and I think that maybe we'll be able to see Cal Quinn take this one. He's on the inside. Ferguson says no, getting shoved wide. Was that Rubelar? That was Rubelar.
That was Rubelar, and that was a very rude move there, I have to say, from Jesse Stevens. Just got his elbows completely out and punched him. Oh my goodness! Is that Morales taking it 3 wide down into the corner? Yes, it is. Tries to dive that Mercedes down around the outside. Tries to hold it the best he can. They're still 2 by 2.
On a day when all he needed was a solid finish to hold his championship lead, Rubelar finds things going sour early. He's got to fight back if he wants to try and keep others from gaining on him in the championship. Side by side continues here between Cortez and Morales eventually gets that 10th spot.
He does indeed, Joe. We promise you fireworks here at the Red Bull Ring, and so far we are delivering. Rubelar there, you can see, starting to poke his nose to the inside of Cortez, trying to get those valuable track positions back. Now he's going to have a good advantage of the draft here. There he is in that Lamborghini, but that's a mistake. He runs a little bit wide. That may open him up to Connor Bell behind him.
Coming up to Lauda once again. Last time it was a slight touch that tipped this all off. This time everybody keeps it clean, including Rubelar not being punched from behind. Connor Bell is the one trying to chase him, but they are very tight to one another. Up to Remus. Officially turn 3, but it's going to feel like turn 2 to these guys. The second braking zone in the lap, and they fan out. Everybody trying to find their position. Little contact there between Cortez and Bell.
Yeah, indeed. That was Bell trying to get a little aggressive up the inside of his teammate, but held it well. Now it's that outright speed of that Lamborghini that is going to try to play into the hands of Nicholas Rubelar. He's going to hold it around the outside, or at least try to here. Good defense there from Cortez. Rubelar maybe looking at an over-under as they start their way into the infield, but once again, Cortez able to hold him off.
Just wasn't enough speed on the exit there. Down through Power Horse and into Vert as he catches up to the back of that white machine. Not many places to pass here in this part of the lap. Maybe we'll have to wait for a chance into Lauda, if not Remus.
Gonna jump up the field here really quickly to Cal Quinn and Ferguson. This is the battle for P3, BMW versus Audi, as we try to battle it out for the last step on this podium.
Ferguson with the advantage as we ride on board with him, looking back at the BMW of Cal Quinn. Into the tight right-hand flick of Lauda. Great exit there for Ferguson as he starts to pull away.
Very much so. Just looks like he was able to get on the power. That Audi known for being very, very quick around the turns, but a little bit fidgety. But it looks like that Ferguson, as we've seen a couple of times before, really able to handle it well, able to get on the power a little bit as well. They're coming through Remus, but the gap's relatively equidistant here between Cal Quinn, Ferguson, and Menino.
Let's stay here, but Rubelar nearly lost his spot to Bell into Remus as he was on the attack, so still can't seem to do anything to get up towards the front where he started this race. The battle for third rages on, and as we watch them head through Power Horse, it is Ferguson who holds that third position. Cal Quinn wants it, and so does Dave Menino. Jesse Stevens kind of giving watch, seeing if there's going to be anything erupting in front that'll give him an opportunity. By the way, you can just catch glances of it in front of them. Modov's still within half a second of DeTulio.
Yeah, and that's going to be enough to take advantage of the draft, so good for Carl to keep up behind him. We'll keep an eye on that. Also, speaking of keeping an eye on things, Nicholas Rubelar is going to have a little bit more breathing room. Connor Bell made a mistake through the infield, allowed Pedro Berger by, and he's gained himself about a 1 second advantage.
So there's that fastest lap up on your screen. Flying down towards Remus once again. Cal Quinn with a very good run. I don't think he's going to have enough straight here. Ferguson doesn't bother defending. Won't need to. They're going to stay single file.
No, they're not, but he has almost given him a little bit of a bump draft there as they come off of Remus. Let's see who got a better run through here. Looks like Cal Quinn just not able to close that gap. That Audi too good off of the corners. Braking again, they're going to concertina a little bit, but that is Ferguson able to keep that car going ahead in a good way.
Dealing with the pressure well for the time being, but it's early days in this race, only 5 minutes into this thing. If he has to put up with this with the entire race, his nerves are going to be shot. It's similarly getting close between first and second to Tulio, and Modov only split by 0.3 of a second.
Indeed, Joe. The one thing I will say is those two are teammates up at the front, so there may be a little talking behind the scenes and maybe a little play to play a little bit of leapfrog on these straightaways and see if they can pull away from third place Daniel Ferguson.
They haven't switched positions yet, so I don't know if they're looking to use that method unless he gets very close to him. Modov now taking the fastest lap away, that time by a little bit wide, just touching that yellow curb. That's considered inbounds here. And we got two cars in pit lane, Costello and Vicente Morales. I'm not sure what for. I do know we had a little bit of contact at the very back of the field, just nose to tail. Certainly not enough to really require repairs. Speaking of contact, Ferguson got a touch from Cal Quinn through Remus that time.
He did indeed. Just a little bit of a love poke there in that battle for P3 that we've been following. They now make their way down this second straightaway. I don't think Cal Quinn is going to be close enough to make a move, and indeed, no. But behind, they've got to be careful. Dave Menino, all of this little fighting, I think Ferguson is holding them up, and Dave Menino is licking his lips in that McLaren.
He knows if those two start fighting, it'll slow them up significantly. Out of Power Horse down to Vert once again as it weaves back and forth. Very fast corners, these two. As it comes back to the right, get a small breather, but once again, a lot of elevation change, blind over that crest before coming down into Rent. And four cars all wanting that third position held by Ferguson with almost nothing between them onto the front stretch. Don't think anybody got the run that'll allow them to be brave into turn one.
No, they did not, Joe, but Daniel Ferguson did get a good run there through that sweeping corner. I think he was able to buy himself a little bit of time. Now, he's been running wide there on the exit of Niki Lauda. He's been dropping those left side tires over the sausage curb, and I think that's costing him maybe a half a tenth as he does so. That's just a little bit of time that those left side tires aren't able to make full grip. Whoa, very deep on the brakes there was Dave Menino. That's going to give Jesse Stevens some ideas behind him, but Menino able to get a good drive out of the corner, and now he's got a little bit more speed as they make their way down this second straight.
Anybody dare down into Rauch? It's downhill braking. You go deep. You go way deep in the end, and we've seen that in real life plenty. No, nobody is going to stick their nose in. As just an update on Rubilar, he's down to 11th now and actually almost got passed by Cortez into Remus. So it's been a heck of a day for the 77 in a way that he won't want to remember the way things are shaping up. Right on board with Dave Menino in that number 3, looking up at the 666 in front.
Yeah, and Dave dropped back a little bit. You see the 666 of Cal Quinn poking out to the left there a little bit more, just trying to gather the car up. Cal Quinn on the binders a little bit more early than I would have expected there, but he does have a car right in front of him, so he's just trying to gather this up right. Now, I guarantee you, Horatio's noticed the same thing I have about Ferguson. He knows he needs to nail this exit to present a good opportunity to get the drive out. Looks like Ferguson didn't go nearly as wide there, so that's going to help him a little bit. Nobody close enough to fully pull off that draft here at this point, I think.
Yeah, he is very close, but the straight is just not long enough. Let's see if he can get the exit. Took a lot of curb down to the inside there. You can see the car bouncing over it, and that may have caused a tiny bit of wheel spin because he's certainly not close enough here. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the track limits are definitely a concern, much like it is in real life. When we saw Formula One here the past few seasons, this one pretty easy to understand, at least in that first corner you're talking about with that sausage curb. 2 wheels have to stay on that red and white curb. If they do that, they are within bounds.
They do indeed, but Nicholas Rubilar trying to force his way up right now. He is in a great little battle here, and that is Rubilar on by the Mercedes of Morales, finally.
No, I think that was Goodway, actually. Goodway and Watts. Yeah,
it was
contact between the pair of them. There it is on screen. Yeah, through vert, you can see just kind of shoves them to the side. Says, you do not have this apex, sir. That one's mine.
My apologies, viewers. It was 2 black and white Lamborghinis, and I got confused.
Yep, there's plenty of action happening as well, so lots to keep track of, and there is a good example of how to get an off track across that first corner with a few cars going wide. Will we have a pass attempt into turn 3 here? Poke of the nose from Goodway. Watts gives him the space at the apex, but man, that rise in elevation just makes it so hard to get the power down, and Watts denies him once more.
Well, Watts did a very cagey move there, Joe. He did give him space, but it looked like he was going to pinch him ever so slightly as they moved down onto the apex. Oh, and that's a little bit of a punt there from Lewis Goodway.
Just nosed him out of the way. He's trying to give him the spot back, but unfortunately he might lose one. He will. Rubilar says, finally something goes my way. Gets to the inside, and this time you had a little bit of crystal ball commentating. It is Nicholas Rubilar who gets a spot.
I did indeed. I apologize. I was 2 laps ahead in the sim, but that is going to be a good gain for Nicholas Rubilar. Now, he's got to get past Watts here because they are losing a lot of time. J.R. Williams about 3 seconds up the road from this pair, so Rubilar has got to get by Watts as soon as possible if he wants to try to get closer up towards the pointy end.
So we take a look at our top 2. You mentioned about them being teammates, and again, I haven't seen any real attacks from Karl Modov, so I don't know if this is formation flying. Most of the teams in this series in the past that we've talked to, DJ, have tended to say, you know, they don't really have team orders. Not typically. It's kind of each man for himself, because often they're both fighting for the championship. And that's kind of the case right here. So I'm not sure what to make of this, if this is maximum pace or if this is just kind of riding.
Well, it may be a little bit of fuel saving as well from Karl Modov. And remember, these are guys that are competing. They're technically under the Delta Sport umbrella, but they're under different teams. Delta Sport Raptor for Modoff and Delta Sport Falcon for DeTulio. So there may be a little bit of competition between them. But I think watching Modoff here, what he's really thinking about is just trying to save a little bit of fuel, lifting and coasting on the straightaways a little bit, going into the heavy braking zones, and if he can maybe last a lap or so longer than DeTulio, maybe find himself a little bit of clear air once they get back out.
Boy, Jesse Stevens has been having some fun this lap. Little side-by-side action with Dave Menino. This is for 5th place. Menino's the one that's come out ahead, but not without a lot of work through both Rauch and Power Horse onto the main straight. You can see how close Stevens is riding to him.
Yeah, he's really been able to get a good draft out of that final corner. Pokes his nose to the inside. That's a little bit of a psychological move there, I think, from him. Not actually trying to go for the overtake there. Let's see what the run is like out of Lauda. Not
Very
the
poor.
best for Stevens.
Yeah, I was shocked to see how much he fell back there. Menino gets himself some breathing space finally. And Stevens will have to re-rack and try again. So this has been some fun fighting here. Like we said earlier, it's basically all been for the 3rd spot, although it's split up somewhat. Ferguson, Calquin, Menino, Stevens, and J.R. Williams have not been able to get away from each other since the very beginning of this race. I think we had a scheduled stop farther back in the pack. Connor Bell has been in and out of his stall.
Yeah, we heard him call that over the radio that he was coming in. Daniel Ferguson looking like he's starting to try to build a little bit of a gap here. It has to be said, it's fluctuating between about 0.6 and 0.8 of a second, so a good job from that Audi driver in front, but Calquin not letting him go away easily. Continue to keep our eyes focused, though, on Dave Menino. That is Stevens still behind him, seeing if there is any more attack to be had. Let's see how he handles this last corner. This is where Stevens has been really strong.
Once again, he looks pretty good. We hop on board with his helmet cam, and he's starting to gain. And if he didn't take it last time, he's certainly unlikely to take it here. Doesn't even show his nose this time, but will he have a better exit? He's trying for it just so hard to get the power down with all the air taken off by that McLaren in front of him. He stays close enough. They're coming up towards Remus, but I don't think he's going to attack, and no, he stays on the racing line.
No, he doesn't, but I have to say, Stevens is taking an alternate line through Remus, Joe. Now, when it comes down to the curbing down on the inside, the track actually dips away a little bit. It's almost like there's a little ravine there, and Stevens is using that to his advantage to try to get the car turned. The problem is as you said, that corner does have some camber to it, and you can carry maximum speed around the outside, and that's what Dave Menino is doing. He's taking a little bit wider of a line. It almost looks like he misses the apex, but as a result, he's able to carry so much more speed off a corner exit.
Herman Tilke, if you're listening, more camber, not anti-camber. We want banking on these corners. It makes for exciting racing. And these two spread apart a little bit, so the excitement has died down there. Same thing with DeTulio and Modoff, as they are split by 0.6 of a second. But we got a driver in. That is Daniel Ferguson. And I think he was safe in the pit lane, and that's a serious concern on my end, because we had a race here over the weekend where multiple cars had penalties for unsafe entry for taking it over the white line there.
Yeah, we did indeed, Joe, but we're going to jump back here to P7. This is that battle that we checked in on a little bit earlier. This is Nicholas Rubelar, your points leader, trying to chase down Owen Watts in front of him.
Rubelar has gained a position from Ferguson pitting, so he's up to 7th. Realistically, he would be in 8th place here. And speaking of which, Ferguson just came out of the pit lane. So he is on his way back in 20th. From Watt's perspective, certainly not close enough down into Rauch this time. Let's stick with this, but I'm a bit surprised, talking of these pit strategy calls, that Ferguson was the first to come in that group. He was at the lead of the train. I would think that he would not want to pit early.
I wouldn't either, Joe. The only thing that I can think of why he wanted to do that, because he got put back out in 20th position. And it's not even good if he's trying to do that, is maybe to try to find a draft buddy to go along with. You're going to lose some time if you're not taking advantage of the draft for the first sector and a half of this track, let's say. But he's out in clean air, just ahead of Felipe Riquelme. So maybe that's part of his idea, is he wanted to get some clean air to run. I'm not really sure what he's thinking.
Lars finally got a little bit of clean air himself here in this 7th spot, just ahead of Watts. So that battle for 3rd has changed hands. Now it's between Cal Quinn and Menino. Ooh, and Menino's looking very close. The McLaren looks to the inside on the BMW. Can he actually get this one done? Is he going to shove him wide? No, he gives some space, and off the corner, Cal Quinn will get the better run, but an overlap remains in the hands of the number 3 car. If he can keep this together all the way down into Rauch, he might finally be able to get the job done. Braking deep into the turn. He gets down to the apex. If he can accelerate off, can he have it? No, it's still not completely there. Great job by Cal Quinn to try and defend the long way around of both corners. Now he's got the inside, and the offline portion of Power Horse is difficult for Menino, but not too difficult. He finds himself clinging to that 4th spot, but unfortunately, Dave Menino, or excuse me, 3rd spot is Cal Quinn, finally shuts the door on him.
But I don't think Menino's done yet. He's poking his nose to the inside of the penultimate corner. That's a little bit of a psychological move, but that's not going to give him the best run. Oh, but that is Cal Quinn coming into the pits, and Ferguson, that's Stevens with the head-up move through Rint. Joe, I don't know if I've ever seen that. That was incredible.
I think Stevens set that one up on purpose, because over the text chat, Cal Quinn kept saying, pitting in. He gave a heads up. Stevens knew it. Timed it right. Look at that. Not often you see passes into the final corner at the Red Bull Ring, but Stevens made it stick.
And also massive kudos here to J.R. Williams, who was also able to get by Menino on that off line. But yeah, Jesse Stevens just using every bit of his brain to get on by. A great move from him.
J.R. Williams also managing to get past, but he hit the curb on the exit there of Remus. And looks like we got some side-by-side battling behind them as well. Goodway and Cortez. I can report that Menino was able to hold off Williams, but in this case, I don't know if we'll see Goodway hold off Cortez. No, Gonzalo is going to get into 7th. Or will he? Back to the inside. Late dive there from the orange and white number 74. Not giving up.
Not giving up at all, down into Worth. Almost a little bit of contact there between the two BMWs. They're still side by side as they go through, neither driver giving any bit of ground. And there, finally, Goodway has to give it up a little bit before they dive into the penultimate corner.
I think there was just a little bit of contact there between them. Thankfully, everybody was able to hold it together. Behind them, that's Pedro Berger watching and enjoying every bit of the show as he gains time, hand over fist. Oh, another try here. Looks like Goodway's quick in a straight line. He gets a chance to, oh no, and he gives a big touch to the quarter panel of Cortez, who goes off into the runoff, loses 3 spots in a hurry.
I want to take a look at this, Joe. The initial sight, I think that may have been Cortez turning in on Goodway a little bit, but this overhead angle should give us a better shot of it. Yeah, I'm going to say that is Cortez turning in a little bit too hard.
Yeah, I think that should be ruled a racing incident for sure. He had presentation. He was to the inside, so deserved at least a little space on that corner. Meanwhile, Modov has once again caught up to DeTulio, down to 0.3 of a second. And, oh, they swapped. They just swapped as we turn to them now. I think DeTulio made a mistake. Yeah, let's go on board with DeTulio. DJ, that car wiggled on the way into Vert.
Yeah, here it is. This is on board with DeTulio. Comes in a little bit. Oh, I think he just missed the angle of it. Maybe running it a little bit too wide there, coming in on corner entry and tried to turn the car while those rear tires were on the rumble strips, and that just gave a little bit of a wiggle in the Porsche. Now remember, this is a relatively new car to the sim. It is rear wheel drive and rear engined, so it's very easy for it to slip around a little bit.
We got to go to Ferguson. Remember, he's our highest pitter, and he is stuck in a whole bunch of traffic as there's other cars that have yet to pit. One peels off to go in. I think that was Lowendick, but he has been held up massively. If he hoped to gain time, it has suddenly fallen apart through his fingers. This is Christopher Rhines, and he's on the attack, and he backs out of it, not willing to risk it into Lauda.
I didn't want to go for that full run, but let's see if this little Audi that could has a little bit more energy in it. They get up over the sausage curve of Lauda, poking his nose a little bit, I think just trying to scare him off. Here he comes, full effect of the draft. That's perfect timing from Ferguson. Here he goes to the inside. Can he make the later move work? He's going to have the inside line, but we've talked about that momentum around the outside. Oh, contact between the two.
Accelerating up and over the crest, the Schoenberg straight. They accelerate towards the braking of Rauch, and a nose ahead for Christopher Rhines, but he's on the outside, very deep for Ferguson. Finally, he gets into 14th. Passing 5 cars in a couple laps is an impressive feat, but the 676 had to have lost a chunk of time from that.
Yeah, it really did. Looking at his lap times, his last lap was a 131 dead, and that is compared with some of your other leaders who are running down in the 129 threes. So Ferguson losing buckets of time, hoping that that undercut was going to pay off for him. Not doing great.
Pedro Berger pits a little bit ahead of him. We've got this battle on screen between Minito and Rubilar. Now, Nicholas up to 5th, but yet to stop. A few drivers ahead of him have already taken their pit stop. Almost feel like maybe it would have behooved Rubilar, of all people, to pit early, since he was stuck in traffic already as it was.
Yeah, it may not have been the best may not have been the worst strategy for him, but running long here, we'll have to see how it goes. Looks like his lap times haven't been affected too much. His last lap out was a 128.9, which is one of the faster ones that I'm seeing. So he's still got some speed in that Lamborghini and is able to fight. We'll have to see once the rest of these leaders shake out in their pit cycle what that means for Rubilar.
He's within 9 seconds of the leaders. And he's, I think, only 3 seconds behind Stevens right now, up ahead of him. Stevens being our 3rd place driver, highest to have not pitted other than those top 2. So it's actually looking pretty good. The 77 may have made up a lot more time than I expected, and he is pitting now. You see him ducking down to the lane.
All right, so that is going to be your championship leader, Nicholas Rubilar, coming in. That'll give some breathing room to those around him. Following your leaders here, DeTulio looking like he's got a bit of a run on Karl Modhoff.
Down to 0.2 of a second. He wants the lead back, potentially. It was a mistake that cost him. Is Modhoff willing to easily hand it over to him? Does he not fight hard with it being a sister team driver? Well, he's certainly not pulling aside for him, as DeTulio didn't attack, but at this point, as they break downhill into Rauch, they run line astern. Now, Rubilar just exits back out on the track and actually into the clear ahead of a mess of cars behind him that is getting very messy. And in fact, we have a spin as Riquelme and Rhines just came together.
Ooh, that got a little bit nasty there. I think 2 drivers just trying to fight for the same portion of straight track. We're going to jump back to the replay here. There you can see it. This is Riquelme and Rhines. Yeah, I just didn't realize he was there and turned in on him.
Unfortunately, I think Rhines is a lapped car. Was that for position? I'm trying to figure out if that was actually for position, or if Rhines was trying to get out of the way and just got confused in so many cars trying to go by him. We'll get word on that a little bit later to see what the situation was. Regardless, it resulted in a car hard into the wall. Our leaders split by a little over 1/4 of a second. have not been much farther apart from each other this entire race than that distance. And while they are two Porsches and they are on sister teams, we have to wonder, are they racing hard? They should have to come in soon, and the pit stop could make a difference. I think Modoff got the draft more than DeTulio for the majority of that.
I think he did. We'll just have to see how both of the drivers are with their right foot and whether or not that will be able to affect them. DeTulio looking very, very comfortable, it has to be said, trailing in that dirty air wake of Modoff. Both of those cars are able to really travel well there. It's not looking like we're having a whole lot of aero wash on them. They're able to do it relatively well.
12 minutes left. If they don't come in this time, I suspect they might have to come in next time through. Let's watch and see if they head towards the pit lane. Bit of an awkward pit entry, this one. And they're just going to follow the racing line. So neither one pitting this lap behind them. Jesse Stevens still needs a pit stop. He's not going to take it this time. Neither is Menino nor Williams. Everybody going to try and go as long as possible. Lewis Goodway in 11th has stopped down pit road. And did they just go by somebody at the... Yeah, that's Palacio at the side of the track there.
Palacio having an issue there very clearly, but the reason we're focused in here a little bit is that's a McLaren slowing, Joe.
Yeah, that's Palacio, I think. That's Palacio off the pace. And he's going to pit in this time, but I think he crossed that white line. I'm pretty certain Palacio is going to get an unsafe pit entry.
Well, we'll know here in a couple of seconds as that will, he'll be stationary in the box for a very long time if he did. The reason we were focused there in the first place, this is Lewis Goodway and Daniel Ferguson. Ferguson in that hard-charging Audi closing in the back of the BMW here, putting a lot of pressure to the 74.
Yeah, this is two drivers who have pitted, so this is for position. No, Palacio did not get a unsafe pit entry. He continues on out. That shocks me based on what we watched earlier on. In the meantime, the 74 is hoping for some better results here. Oh, and DeTulio's in, but Modoff is not.
All right, well, Carl Modoff, clearly you were right, Joe, able to save a little bit more on that timeout. Jesse Stevens stays out, but it looks like Menino and Williams both diving down pit lane.
And Morales joins them, Holland as well. That's going to be the vast majority of our drivers. Only two up at the front that have been able to go to lap 21 in today's race, cracking 10 minutes left to go. But with DeTulio pitting at a different time from Modoff, if he gets a good in and out lap, DeTulio has a good shot at trying to get right past him. But we think that Modoff will have to take less fuel.
He will indeed. The one thing that may determine it, though, is where DeTulio comes out. He's got lots of clean air in front of him right now, so it's going to be clean air versus clean air. Nothing to worry about from either driver there and getting impeded by traffic.
DeTulio getting it up to speed as we watch from his Porsche. And Goodway, oh, wow. Well, let's go back to Goodway because that's a side-by-side battle between he and Ferguson right now. But Goodway breaks early and lets Ferguson go through. Credit to Rubilar. He is up to 6.
Modoff has had a problem coming into the pits. He tried to judge it a little bit too late, cut across that white line, and actually got off into the grass on the right side of the road.
Oh, wow. So Carl Modoff definitely at least going to lose time from that. Stevens in behind him as well. I'll be shocked if DeTulio doesn't come out in the lead here.
I will be too, Joe. Just that little bit of running on the grass like that, that extra braking, that can really hurt him. Now, DeTulio was slow, was in the box for about 9 seconds. Watching Modoff right now, very quick, 8.5 seconds. This is going to be close.
There goes DeTulio. He is by. So Alessandro is your leader. Stevens comes out with an even quicker stop at 7.5 seconds. In fact, that is the fastest stop of anybody out there today.
Wow, that pit crew for Jesse Stevens really putting in their time today. Absolutely incredible. And so that is going to reset your order in the running here. DeTulio in the lead by about 2 seconds. Behind him, Modoff with some work to do, and Jesse Stevens rounding out your podium, having a good gap over that battle we were following earlier with Ferguson, Rubilar, and Menino.
Yeah, overall, Modoff had a faster stop both in his stall and from cone to cone. He probably would have had the lead easily if he hadn't have made that mistake. He's only 1.7 seconds behind. His short stop was certainly a saving grace. That's a little bit far apart, so let's head to Daniel Ferguson. I know we've watched him a lot, but for the first time, we'll get to see him and Nicholas Rubilar face off since the start of this race.
Yeah, indeed. So there is Rubilar on that comeback drive like we talked about, doing a good job to push ahead here. He's got the gap down to Ferguson to about a half a second right now. And remember, that Lamborghini, very fast in a straight line, very slippery, so that may play to his advantage.
A little too far back this time, I think. Ferguson manages to get himself at 0.5 of a second ahead. He'll have to focus on the exit on this one, maybe. See if he can get any closer. Try to attack under the hard, breaking into the hairpin of Remus. And nope, just doesn't seem to be close enough. Doesn't seem to get that grip. 6 minutes left to go on the clock. The win is not completely sold out at this point. Neither is the podium. Side by side for 7th between J.R. Williams and Horatio Calquin through Remus. And that is Williams that you see in the Porsche managing to just ease ahead of Calquin.
Yeah, just barely. Ooh, Calquin looking like he might have a little bit something else to say about it. No, he's going to fall back into line, just keep his nose behind the gearbox of that Porsche. Almost contact between the two as Calquin able to get a little bit more speed through the exiting stages of that. And I now dive into the infield.
You just about inspect the drivetrain. He was so close to the rear of that car as they come downhill into Vert. I've been watching this as well as the fight between Rubilar and Ferguson, both of them incredibly tight. Let's go back to Rubilar. He's going to try and go side by side into Rent. That is a rare case that you see that one even work, let alone happen. And he's not going to be able to get through. Let's take a look at it. This was going to be brave stuff before he took his nose out from there.
Yeah, especially considering that Audi is very, very good around the corners. Diving his nose down to the inside. Ferguson just cutting him off a little bit. Oy, oy, oy. Very lucky he did not go to tears on that one, but he is back on the attack here. Ferguson knows it too. Look at that weaving coming up this long straightaway.
Gotta imagine that Rubilar's got some red mist still lingering in there, so no wonder he's making aggressive moves, trying to make up for the beginning of this race as he fell backwards down the hill. Rubilar is close, but he's going to have to send a wild dive into Rauch to make it stick. Doesn't seem to be good enough for him. Oh, great exit, though. Look at him cling to the back.
Yeah, he's going to have to make a move here going in, and indeed he does. He pokes his nose to the inside. That's an aggressive move through the infield. He's going to try to make it stick. Ferguson carrying a little bit more speed around the outside, and that's going to be enough to hold your points leader at bay for now.
Credit to each driver in that situation. He held it down. Rubilar didn't drift into Ferguson, and Ferguson gave him just enough space. Heavy, hard racing between these two for the 4th spot out there. Both won as many points as they can get here in this championship. Rubilar, because he's leading it, and he wants to try and keep from giving up the easy win at the end of this season. He's got such a gap right now. If he starts bleeding points, then suddenly the pressure is on into the last couple races. 3 minutes left to go. Ferguson gets himself underneath, gets the tires underneath himself for at least a brief moment. Rubilar has to try and close it up again.
He's going to have to try here, and there he goes, just trying to eke in the best he can, but not able to get it. Good exit, though. They're out of that corner for Rubilar. This could be an attack.
I'm willing to bet he is absolutely gonna try and send one in, holding off the inside, just covering off Ferguson. Tries to make life difficult. Will he squeeze him out to the outside? No, he's gonna give him space and even out accelerates him as Rubilar will probably try to stick his nose in again. Last time it didn't work, but he's much closer this time. He gets almost fully wheel to wheel with him, still halfway up the side of that car. It's two left-handers, so the inside both times for Rubilar. He tries to accelerate away, but it's just not there. Ferguson still in fourth.
Hoi, oi, oi, talk about faith there from Daniel Ferguson holding that Audi along the outside. Now they dive into the penultimate corner again. Ooh, offline there from Ferguson. That's going to open up an opportunity, I think, down the main straightaway, potentially for Rubilar, but Ferguson able to get the power down through Rint very well.
And this is 2 laps to go now. DiTullio crossed the line with a little more than 2 minutes left on the clock. No try from Rubilar this time, but what immense respect are we seeing between these two? Hard racing, but neither has put a foot wrong.
No, they have not, Joe. This is exactly what you come to expect from the PRL GT Pro Series. Here comes Rubilar again. He's going to send it down the inside of Remus. Good speed there. Blocks it off.
Just way too deep into the corner and pulling the over-under. Ferguson is through. Here comes Menino. Menino has been watching this whole thing quietly and decided now's the time to strike around the outside. Rubilar tries to break deep to hold him off. Looks like he'll be successful now, but this adds an extra complication to the equation.
Oh, and Dave Menino trying to pull a Rubilar on Rubilar, maybe looking down the inside here, going into the infield. No, he's going to back out of it, not trusting that McLaren nearly as much as Rubilar trusts his Lamborghini. He's now got some serious room to make up if he wants to get that 4th place away from Daniel Ferguson. The gap is about 0.3 of a second. He's really got to put the power down because DiTullio is about to take the white flag.
Pressure's on now. Race for the lead really has not come together like we thought it would. Modov still stuck at a 1.5 seconds behind. The real fun is here for 4th place as they come out of the final corner. Ferguson ahead of Rubilar, ahead of Menino.
Yeah, this battle is most certainly going to be on. Let's see who can get a better run here coming out of Niki Lauda. Oh, you can see just how much Rubilar is pushing. They're taking every inch of that curbing that he can. He's trying to close down the gap. The speeds are getting higher and higher, and Rubilar does have a speed advantage, but I don't think he has the distance.
Last time he went too deep. This time he learned his lesson, trying to square off the corner, and he might have timed it just perfect. He gets some wheel spin on the curb. Oh, and now he's starting to fall back. Rubilar may have flubbed it here.
He may have indeed. He may be kicking himself for that one move and one move only. Here we go, breaking down into the corner. Doesn't get the run that he wants to. I think this is too little too late from Nicholas Rubilar. I think if Ferguson can just hold this together, he may have it.
From a front row start to a mere 5th place here for Rubilar, unless he does something crazy in these last few corners. He's very close. I don't think he's willing to risk that much considering the championship is on the line. And we've got to cut away because DiTullio is around A1 and onto the front stretch. The number 20 takes win number 2 this season here in Austria. Modov going to take a 2nd place, and Ferguson survives somehow with a 4th after Rubilar was breathing down his neck.
And I love Nicholas Rubilar flashing his lights there at the end out of respect to Ferguson. That was some great battling that we were witness to. Absolutely incredible from both drivers.
That's some of the best racing I have seen in a long time here on this channel. Just no quarter given, no quarter taken, and neither one wound up pushing each other off the track. That is how you race, ladies and gentlemen. But we've got to go through our results here, and up at the top of it, it is Alessandro DiTullio. It is Alessandro DiTullio who won over Karl Modov in 2nd place. Jesse Stevens finished in 3rd, with Daniel Ferguson finishing exactly where he started in P4. Rubilar tried to stop that as he wanted at least one more at the end, but he settled for P5. Dave Menino was 6th, Kyle Quinn was 7th, and Williams 8th. Pedro Berger, we didn't get to cover his climb from 14th to 9th. Not a bad job. Morales was 10th.
In 11th, it was your hard charger of the race, David Holland, up 15 positions, followed by Arnaud Genet and Louis Goodway in 13th. Jean-Francois Godin was 14th, followed by Felipe Riquelme dropping a couple of spots, and Connor Bell in 16th. Philippe Magnin was 17th, followed by Julio Palacio and Teddy Lowendick, with Christian Raditz rounding out your top 20.
21st was Rhines, who was our first DNF, and all those behind him did not get to see the checkered flag, sadly. As we wait for one of our podium sitters to join us here in the booth. We kind of hyped up this track before we got to the green flag, DJ, but I think that hype was merited today.
Oh, I think it very much was, Joe. This is one of the newer additions to the iRacing sim, and every time we have seen it come out, it just continues to produce fantastic racing. It is absolutely wonderful. No matter what kind of car you put on this track, you're going to see something good.
Indeed. And not sure that we are going to get anyone. We're giving a few more seconds here to see if one of our three drivers up at the top, or maybe even Ferguson and Rubelar, will come join us to talk about what was a thrilling race. And it looks like we do have our winner here, Alessandro Di Tullio, taking his second victory of the season. Alex, you were in such a tight fight there with Karl Modoff for so much of the race. When you made that mistake, did you think that was it? Did you feel like that's what lost you the victory?
Hey guys, yeah, that mistake definitely, it worried me a bit, but then once I got back behind him, I actually figured out it was a bit better to be behind him just to do some fuel saving. So at the end, it did come out in a positive way. Could have gone very wrong though, so yeah, I'm happy that it went in a good way instead of a bad way.
You also got helped by Modoff having a poor pit entry, had a bobble there that cost him some time. Once you exited the pits and you saw that gap, did it feel more like smooth sailing? Do you feel like you had things under control?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised because I knew he was saving fuel for most of the race behind me, so I knew he was going to be ahead of me if everything went well for him in the pits. And once I saw him behind me, like almost 2 seconds behind, I was pretty surprised, but I knew all I had to do was just keep doing what I was doing, like setting in good laps, and that's it.
Well, congratulations on another victory. That'll help you in your championship hunt. Anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, first off, I want to congratulate Carl as well. I think it's really good for us to get a 1-2 for the team, and I would like to thank my parents, and then the team Delta Sport E4K and its sponsors Move Up, Freem USA, Race Factory, Unified for Kids, Get Stuck, Driven Texas, and Extreme Sim Racing. Thank you guys.
As Alessandro Di Tullio with his spotter apparently still in his ear, as we now talk to Karl Modoff, and DJ will converse with him.
Well, Karl, the first thing I got to ask you about is unfortunately not the best thing to bring up, but that dive coming into the pits looks like it cost you the win here today, potentially.
Hey guys, yeah, potentially. It's hard to say what the gap would have been. It's always a bummer because you work from lap one. I'm working to save as much fuel as possible, knowing that I don't have the pace to get away from Al at all. To drive away with the draft and everything. So you try and save the whole fuel, thinking you can get a gap, and then the double lefts before pitting, I slid the rear pretty massively, and just with the way the tire model is, if you overheat the surface of the tire, it takes a few laps for the traction to come back. So the rear end was just super hot, and then I'm actually pretty happy not to get a dangerous pit entry penalty there and end up back in the pack further. Bummer, would have liked to have been had a shot at the win there at the end, but P2's still a pretty strong finish. At least we beat our main championship rival there.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that run-in with Di Tullio. It looked like you guys were pretty much in lockstep. Had that entry not happened, do you think you could have taken him?
I think I would have had a good shot at it. Yeah, I think I would have come out maybe a second and a half ahead of him, and then tried to hold him off. He would have been tight to see if he caught me, and then but then he would have to get by me, and I was pretty quick through the final two corners. It's kind of hard to get to the guy, so I think I could have had a shot at it. But hey, I made the mistake and he didn't, so congrats to him on the win.
Well, a second place is nothing to shake a stick at, Karl. Anybody you'd like to thank for this?
Hey, I thank you guys, the organizers, the announcers, friends, family, everyone tuning in, Delta Sport, Move Up Transportation, Freem, Race Factory, and Get Stuck. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That was your second place finisher, Carl Modoff. And now Joe Peak is caught up with your final podium finisher, Jesse Stevens.
Jesse, you had a little bit of a run-in on that first lap with Nick Rubelar. Have you had a chance to talk to him at all about that incident yet?
No, I haven't, and I feel really bad about it. I got it on the power, and the back right kind of came off the ground, and I had to catch it. And it just happened to be that he was on the outside trying to get the run. So I really apologize for that. I didn't mean to really track out like that.
It was certainly unfortunate, but regardless, you went from a 6th place start up to a 3rd place finish. Considering you're 3rd in the points, this has to be encouraging towards your championship, beating Rubelar as well.
Yeah, the only down part is Carl finished in front of me, so he still gained points on me. But I think it's 3 races left in the season. I got to make it happen.
Well, clearly, you've proven fast in these last few rounds. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to while we got you?
Yeah, just all the boys down at Pure Sims, Freem, Cube Controls, Craig's setup shot for the setup this week. It was actually pretty spot on. And then SimLab as well for their rigs.
That was Jesse Stevens, 3rd place here today. And we also want to give a big thank you to all the sponsors that you saw on the screen during these interviews, as well as the Precision Racing League. And a thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Make sure and check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a moment. The next round will be at Road America for the GT4s and Long Beach for the GT3s. It'll be August 9th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. In a few minutes' time, we go to Auto Club for the Porsche Owners Club. It's a 3-hour enduro. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.